baby Meek was an 11-year-old child. He was talented. He was a talented soccer player, and he had this infectious smile. And whenever I see pictures of him, I think of what a charming young lad he would have grown up into. I honestly think that he would have been a heartbreaker. But Jayden-Lee was not allowed to grow up. He was brutally killed. And today we are going to be talking about the main suspect in the case, which is his mother, Tiffany. Now, Tiffany Meek, and that's the first time I will use her last name. The Meek family don't like her name being associated with her, is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And these are all just allegations against her. And at the end of the day, is Tiffany someone who has been vilified by the public, or is she innocent of a crime? And if so, who did kill Jaden? So we're going to go through the timeline. I'm a really big fan of timelines. If you know me from TikTok, I like to build a timeline because we can see a version of events and we can see where people are coming and people are going. So on Tuesday, the 13th of May, Jayden-Lee would go to school for the last time. This has been confirmed. Investigators have confirmed with the school, with the teachers, that he was at school. And there has been different confirmations about what he was wearing that day. According to the teachers at the school, he was wearing a red sort of tracksuit jacket, as well as perhaps a long pants. There's various different uniforms for the school. I've done a deep dive into my TikTok. And according to the security that saw Jaden coming back in, he saw Jaden in a pair of shorts as well as the red jacket. And Tiffany has a different version of what he was wearing. She describes him as wearing those gray school pants and that white shirt, whereas we know the teachers say a red shirt or a red jacket. And this is going to become important later on because the missing photo, the missing persons report that was compiled, the photo that was used is exactly the same one and the same description that Tiffany described Jaden as going to school in. So we know that he went to school that day. That is not into question. But what we do not know is what happened when he returned. So we're going to be going through two versions of events, which is Tiffany's versions of events and the SAPS version of events, because essentially it is Tiffany versus the SAPS at this point. Now, on Tuesday, the 13th of May, Jaden would allegedly come home, according to the SAPS. But according to Tiffany, he would not. She says that she was busy working. She was not an adult worker. She's an office administrative assistant. And at around 4 o'clock, she became worried and she WhatsApped her mother and said, "I'm worried about Jaden." It is then that his mother, that Debbie, phones the driver, allegedly asking about where Jaden is. And then they go around to the security. So this is the day shift guard at around 5 o'clock. The night shift and the day shift guards, they switch at around 6 o'clock. And the security, the day shift guard there confirms that the security confirms that he saw Jayden-Lee enter the complex in Vleerhof and that he was wearing that dark shorts, as well as a t-shirt, that red jacket that has become so synonymous with Jayden-Lee. And they also confirm with a child who was on the same transport that Jayden-Lee did in fact enter. Now at 6 o'clock, the day shift guard goes off duty and the night shift guard comes on duty. And only at around 7 o'clock that evening is Jayden-Lee reported missing to the police. Now, there is some accusations here that the police did not open a case immediately, but the police deny this. And there is no 24 or 48-hour thing in South Africa for missing persons. You can open a case immediately, especially when it regards to children. And if someone does not want to open a missing case, you don't even have to be a relative to open a missing case, then you have to ask to speak to the station commander, because this is something that the South African police, they take very seriously. So then, according to the police, they agree that at around 7 o'clock, they open a case immediately, and that they immediately spring to action. So at around 8 o'clock that night, the police and Tiffany, they take Tiffany along with them, and they go to the transport driver's house and they search it. So it's alleged that Tiffany was pointing the finger at the transport driver, and police took her seriously because they went to this poor man's house and they searched it and they didn't find Jaden. Then at around 9 o'clock, the police and Tiffany return to the complex, right? And they see the day shift guard has gone off duty, the one who saw Jaden, and the night shift guard is there. So they go to the day shift guard's house, which is not in the same area, not in the same complex, but is nearby. And the day shift guard confirms that Jayden-Lee entered the complex. He saw Jayden-Lee enter, and that then the police offer to search the complex. They offer to search the complex. This is their version. Now we get to Tiffany's version. So Tiffany is saying while this is happening at around 9 o'clock, her brother is knocking on doors. He is being threatened with arrest because the SAPS are not searching. Then at 9:30, the SAPS and Tiffany, they go meet a child outside of the gate whose mother has brought them out late at night. And this is the same child who allegedly saw Jaden enter the complex. And the child confirms that Jayden-Lee did in fact enter. And there is some interesting things that are being said here. This has come out in court according to the investigating officer, because when Tiffany went to the day shift guard's house, it is alleged that she said, "Don't lie," right? She interjected. And allegedly she said something similar to this child, like, "Are you sure that you saw that?" And this is a little bit suspicious for me. This personally is a little bit suspicious. And then we go on from 9:30 to 12 o'clock at night. Police and the family, they are driving around together. They are searching not in Vleerhof, they are searching the surrounds. So they're not searching the complex in Vleerhof, they're searching the surrounds of Vleerhof. And during this evening, even the community were out and about. They were trying to find Jaden. They offered to search Tiffany's flat multiple times, but it was never searched. And you know, I've spoken to a legal expert about this, about whether the police should have insisted on searching Tiffany's flat. And the legal expert said that within regards to the law, if they had a reasonable suspicion that Jaden could have been in the flat, they could have searched legally. But they did not. They were obviously believing Tiffany at that point, and they were being guided by her. But what we do know is that Tiffany's flat was never searched. And I just wish that perhaps if it had been searched that night, we could have had answers about what had happened to Jayden-Lee, because now we are going to have to wait until trial. So according to the official timeline, Tiffany and the family, they do not go back into the flat. So the police see Tiffany get into her family's vehicle, and Tiffany goes to her mother's house and sleeps. And this is a 6-minute drive away. An interesting thing that we have to note here is that Tiffany only has information of Jaden coming in to the complex. There's no information that Jaden left the complex. It is just him coming into the complex. And I would think that perhaps she would want to wait there in case he came back. Now we're going to go over onto Wednesday, the 14th of May, when at around 4 o'clock in the morning, according to reports, this is different reports, security, the night shift guard sees Tiffany return to the complex alone. And she says to him that she's there to change her clothes. She needs to change her clothes and she needs to freshen up. There's a news story coming out now that she needed to, she had her monthlies and she needed to get pads, but whatever the story is, it keeps changing. And Tiffany returns to the complex alone. And then at around 5:30, so the security sees Tiffany leave, and he notices that she's in the same pair of clothes. And another thing that we have to talk about here is that the security offered to help search cars. He said to Tiffany that, look, we can go and search some cars together, we can look for Jaden. And he saw her leaving. And this is really important. One of my viewers pointed it out to me on a channel on TikTok. This is really important because what we see here is that the security says she left in a hurry. and she said she had a bolt, but he saw no headlights. Now, as a South African woman, you do not walk out into the darkness alone. You wait for the car to come, and that makes me think that maybe she was trying to get away as quickly as she could. This is my own speculation in the case. I will always add when I speculate. And from there, soon as Tiffany leaves, and just before Tiffany left at 5:30, there is a tenant that leaves for work, and there is no Jayden-Lee in the corridor. But as soon after Tiffany leaves, then at around 6 o'clock, Jayden-Lee is discovered on the stairs by a tenant. The tenant calls for the night shift guard, and he is lying in the stairs. He just has his underwear on, and it appears as though he has been washed. Now, security and tenants confirm that Jayden-Lee is cold, that there is no pulse, and there is chaos at this scene. And at around 20 to 7, Tiffany is back at her mom's house. She told the security that she had to go to the police station, even though the police station is not open at that time. That's why she was in such a rush for her bolt. Then Tiffany is at her mom. She receives a phone call, this is according to her own timeline, and she takes her son to the hospital at 7 with a police escort. So what happens is that they rush him to the hospital. They flag down a police car that is responding to another scene. The police realize the seriousness of the situation, and they escort her to the hospital where Jayden-Lee is. At 8:30, SAPS arrive at the hospital, and they document Jayden-Lee's injuries, which I have been told are extensive. So I've been told that they are extensive, that he was battered, that he was bruised, and he essentially died from blunt force trauma at the back of his head. And what I think possibly that mark on his chin could have been is perhaps he was assaulted from behind and he fell and he hit something. And that is where that mark came from. But what we do know is that this child was brutally, I'm talking about brutally, unalive. At around 9 o'clock, different investigators arrive at the complex. They secure the scene and the flat. They identify Tiffany's flat as an area of interest. And the photographer who films a video as well is brought in, and it captures Jayden-Lee's school bag and shoes in that complex. And this is on the 14th. So this is hours after Jayden-Lee has been found. Now, you got to remember that this video is verifiable. There is metadata, there is logs. So this is pretty concrete evidence in my own opinion. And then at around 10 o'clock, the SAPS and the Hawks, they search the flat. And at around 20 to 2, they call in a blood sniffer dog. This blood sniffer dog arrives into the complex. It alerts in Tiffany's flat to a pillow. It does not alert in any other flat. There is no video of bodily fluids being found in a flat upstairs. There were no securities allegedly sleeping on the property. Those have all been debunked, right? And then in the evening, the SAPS interview Tiffany. Tiffany confirms that she went back to Vleerhof at 5:22 and she left at 5:47. And she did not see Jayden-Lee. So why did Tiffany go back in the early hours of the morning? Now we have to go into the forensic timeline, because on Saturday, the 16th of May, the school bag found in the flat. So on the 16th of May, the school bag is found in the flat. This school bag is very important because when it was examined in court, it was found that Jayden-Lee had completed the day's work. That last day that he went to school, he had completed that work in his school books, and he had with him homework and other things that were dated. So we know that school bag was with Jayden-Lee. And the question is, how did that school bag get back into Tiffany's flat? And people who are supporters of Tiffany say that she was framed. Well, why would the SAPS have a motive to frame her? I'm not too sure. And then this occurred so the school bag was collected into evidence 2 days later. And after that, on the 30th of May, Tiffany is informed that she is a suspect. Now, this is when the media campaign against the police becomes great. I made a TikTok about it, calling out the police. And at the end of the day, Tiffany knew that she was under suspicion all this time. On the 24th of June, her boyfriend is taken to the police. His DNA is taken, and he is released without charge. And then on the 4th of July, his father, Jayden-Lee's father, and Tiffany's boyfriend's phones are downloaded. So Tiffany's boyfriend's phone is not returned, which makes me think that it was probably seized as evidence, but the father's phone was returned. And then on the 11th of July, Tiffany was arrested. So that is a quick recap of what happened with regards to the Jayden-Lee case. And this is a circumstantial case, but circumstantial cases are not necessarily weak in South Africa. I often say that if you go outside and your car is wet, full of droplets, if the grass is wet, if there are puddles, you can make the assumption that at night it rained during the night. And that's exactly what a circumstantial case is. And the key questions that I think Tiffany would need to answer in this trial going forward is, why did she go back in the early hours of the morning? Why did she not change her clothes? Her story's evolved over time. The most recent one that has appeared is that she wanted to change her lady products for feminine hygiene. And the second thing is, why did she not let anyone search her flat? And why did she not sleep at her flat that night? Why did she remove herself from the scene of the crime? And at the end of the day, no matter whose side you're on, we just want justice for Jaden. Jayden-Lee was brutally unalived, and this is something that has captured the heart of South Africa, because Jayden-Lee deserved to live. He deserved to go and be a star soccer player, and South Africa has really lost a star child. Now, comment below what you think. Do you think that Tiffany is innocent, or do you think that there is perhaps some evidence that she needs to explain? Comment below, because we are going to be going through this trial. I'll be recapping it every day, and we can talk about these things together.